Hey guys, welcome back. This will be the endgame update for my Power Siphon Ballista League start. And with the endgame version, I can pretty much farm all Uber bosses. As you can see in the background footage, I can farm Ghosted Rogue Exile on T17, one of the hardest content in the game. So let's catch you guys up with what I've been doing since the last video. So since the last video, I've been running this scarab and gold farm strategy that I posted a few days ago because I think it's suited the best with the old flame mechanics in Necro Settler League. The build that I use in that video can't really do T17 bosses very fast, but it can still run T17 maps, so I do run it from time to time to farm T16 in modern map. Normally I would use the strongbox strategy to farm maps, but ambush scarab is really expensive in Necro Settler League, so I don't think it'll be worth it. If you haven't seen the video and are looking for some strategy to farm for the rest of the league, I would highly recommend that strategy. Now you would probably should look into harvest as well, because at this point a lot of people are buying yellow juice, so it's definitely very profitable. Anyway, I got a lot of good drops and a lot of good scarabs, and also an unnatural instinct from the Nameless Seer. The transition into Doryani Setup will be very expensive, so it will take a lot of time and farming, and the endgame market right now in Necro Settler League is a little bit weird, so this is the reason why I am going to migrate back into Settler to finish the build. Going into the endgame setup, you need some unique items that can't really be found in Necro Settler, so it kind of makes sense if you really want to push this build further. Or you have to fight for the 1 or 2 items that are available on the market at really expensive price. Namely the Forbidden Flame and Flesh combo, or I can't even find a spell block corrupted Swelling, which I bought here in Settler League. It's probably better if you buy the Swelling and double corrupted them yourself, but at this point I just want to finish the build, so I bought whatever is available on the market. Like I mentioned before, we are going into a Doryani setup, so I just buy the cheapest corrupted one on the market. Next, I'm going to buy a Lethal Pride, and it's for our chain breaker setup. And this one is actually very good with triple double damage node. You can definitely find one cheaper with double damage node, and let me show you how to find them real quick on the Thomas Jewel calculator. Alright, so here we are in the Thomas Jewel skill tree, and you want to scroll up and click on the passive jewel socket that we are going to use, which is this one. So click on it, and you want to pick the Lethal Pride. Then you want to choose Akoya. It's very important that you pick Akoya because she's the one that's gonna give us chain breaker. And next you can enter seed if you have anything cheap, but I would recommend you to select stats. You want to input double damage here, and then you want to do a minimum of 2. Then click search. Actually, you want to deselect the passive point first, and then you want to only click on the node that we have in the PoE, which is this one, and that one. Alright, so then you click search again, and that narrowed down to only 149. You can see that's the jewel I bought. As you can see, we have triple double damage node like that, and you can click on the other one as well. You want to see what's the other node that we have. For example, this one. Yeah, totem damage and reduce crit damage, which is pretty good. Say you like this one, you can click on trade to open the trade site to look for it. And it is not available, but that's no problem because, you know, it's the end of the league and there's not a lot of people online, so you have to settle for what you can find on the market. Say you want add a stat as well, you want to go back into config, add a stat, say totem damage, and put a minimum of 1 and search. That would narrow down to 22 and 2. So you can click on them to find what is the other node as well. But yeah, that's pretty much everything that about finding the perfect jewel for you, and I'll put the link to the site in the descriptions of this video, okay? At this point, I know that I also want to recraft my wand, and so I do a few more alteration spamming, and I got a good T1 spell damage base, and so it's very rare. So if you would get this one and you want to annul it, then you want to imprint it first in case you bricked it. But anyway, I got it success in first try. Yeah, so not much to say here. The recipe for the wand craft is exactly the same as my day 4 video, and I ended up breaking all my T1 and T2 spell damage, so yeah, that didn't turn out okay. And so I had to use my original one, which I ended up breaking that too, losing the prefix, I think. So I had to YOLO annul that. YOLO veil that. And then after that, I had to do another recombinators of the original one with one of the crafted suffix one as well. And somehow I ended up with 3 prefix and 3 suffix that I wanted, so that's a perfect attempt. And yeah, this is the last attempt. You can see the one on the left is my original one with the T3 spell damage. Imagine that this is a T1 though. This would actually be crazy. But yeah, anyway, that is the one craft, and love it or hate it, Recombinator is back and it's really strong. I got pretty much all the T1 stats besides spell damage, which is like the most important one, but that's okay. Finished the one craft with the Haunted modifier, and that's it. Alright, so here's the first Uber bosses fight. I will showcase all the Uber boss and the farm that I did. This build basically, I think at this point, this build can do all content in the game right now, and pretty reliably as well. I know Svalin is a gimmick, but I feel like, yeah, it's worth a shot, and it turns out better than I thought. You know, it's the block or die playstyle, but again, I'm pretty tanky as well, so it's not really getting one shot. And I'll show that later when I'm doing the T17 farm, okay? So yeah, this build have good damage, pretty tanky, I would say, and that was Uber Shaper. And this is the Uber Elder fight, and I was trying a lot of setup, and the setup I think is one that I like the most. It's not the final setup though, but as you can see, build's very tanky. You don't really die from anything if you're, if you play smart, right? I think I die here, yeah, because of Shipper Beam. Alright, no problem, we go right back, and as you can see, it's really my first time doing Uber bosses this league because I don't really do boss anymore. But again, totem playstyle, pretty easy. Put down totems, run around, dodging, blocking skill shots. And this is the Uber Serious fight, and I have no problem tanking Serious Beam. This fight is just annoying in general, and this build basically had a lot of DPS. At this point, I think I was pulling over 50 million DPS. So yep, that was the fight. Basically, I just want to showcase the one shot on either a wall as well. This fight is easy, but to be able to one shot her, you need to time it right. And I was able to get 45% shock. I think that's pretty cool as well. Anyway, here's the full run of the T17 farming in Sanctuary of farming Ghosted Rogue Exile, and I also killed the boss as well. So overall, this is one of the hardest content in the game, so I thought showcasing this would really prove the build is capable of doing all contents in the game. The main problem with using Totem to farm this kind of farm is because Totem is not tanky, and the Rogue Exile usually one-shot them, so that's where the problem lies. But anyway, my Totem, I had to spec it to Ironwood. You'll see later in the skill tree. You'll see that this build have no problem killing these Ghosted Rogue Exile, a lot of damage. And yeah, survivability, I mean, you do get one shot sometime, but it's mostly coming from the really rippy Rogue Exile. Like you'll run into them once in a while, especially the big one, right? to do this kind of farm, you definitely want build that can survive and push out the damage, right? So this is one of the builds that I can say reliably farm this pretty well, because you know, if you run into a really rippy ghosted row exile, you can still kill him by cutting back and just let your totem do the work anyway. This build I'm also running a berserk enrage setup, which usually is a problem because you don't gain mana. I'll talk about that later, but I figured out a way to make mapping pretty comfortable without any issues, right? Oh, and sorry for the rant. I was really not sure if I should talk or play music during this part, but I feel like commentating on this is kind of fun. If anything, maybe we could talk about PoE 2, which is the coming up plan, right? Because this is probably the last build of the league for me, and I'm not sure if I'm coming back to play any other build. There's 10 more days until PoE 2, and I'm pretty excited for that. And I feel like I'm also sorry if the build, the investment is too steep for you. Obviously, going from the previous setup right into Mageblood and, Doryani with like all these kind of expensive items is, it's such a big curve, right? But that's how endgame in PoE works. You have to invest a lot more to be able to get more out of your build. Power Siphon with power charge setup before that we had is pretty efficient, as in you don't have to invest a lot of money in the build. I'll say if the economy is in its right state, 40-50 div would be able to get you to farm T16 reliably, and you can farm T16 to earn those 500-600 divine, especially this league, because there's a shipping mechanic. Anyway, so I think you get the point. We can kill all these rope exile, no problem. So I'll just go ahead and skip to the boss because I don't really want to waste your time. And after that, I'll explain the build. Alright, welcome back guys, and this is the one that we craft before. And next this is a ring. This ring is very strong. We want int, we want global critical strike multiplier, we want minus lightning resistant, and we want all attribute. If you don't want all attribute, you can fix your deck somewhere and get mana on it. That should be fine as well. Let's see here. Okay, so Mind Spiral, we have +1 to maximum power charge is pretty good. You don't need the 90% cost or reservation multiplier. You're running maximum power charge because we have the Relicash. So with the Relicash boots, we definitely want to spec into, getting as many power charges as we can. And Calandra Touch, we reflecting our ring. That's, no brainer there. So to get our lightning resist down to -200. And standard setup, Doryani as a Great Wolf with lightning damage from hits convert to coal or fire with the increased archer build. And the Swelling, this one I bought a corrupted one, and block spell damage 20% is perfect, but it's really expensive. For me, 18% is good enough. As you can see, I did all contact with it without any issues. Meshbot, pretty standard. I mean, at this point, at this investment, Meshbot is like a must really, because it's just too good to pass up. And for Meshbot, the most important thing is the flask, so let's talk about it. We have the Ruby flask with critical strike chance. This to get our fire resistance to almost 90% cap, right? We have Sapphire Flask as well, avoid stun, so because avoid stun, avoid shock. Avoid stun, so we can take another Pantheon, and we take Soul Lunaris. We also take Soul Yule for the reduce effect curse, so we don't have to run curse on our flask. And that will be later in the gem, or actually the passage tree. I'll quickly show you that. Okay, so here we are in the passage skill tree. I will only talk about the important keystone, right? So Chainbreaker, very important. It makes so that you don't regenerate your mana, you regenerate rage, so we can combine that with Berserk for a lot more DPS, and our rages pretty much always keep at 40. So yeah, it's a pretty good DPS buff for our Power Siphon Archmage Totem. And the way we regenerate mana is we use this Mana Mastery when you use a skill. So when you block out the totem, you can easily sustain your mana. You can see here my mana go back up, right, to 400. And you know, I also have a backup solutions for when you actually don't have any mana, is you will use the guard skill. So that's the recover 10% when you use a guard skill. And we have Steel Skin. So for example, our mana is 300, and we pop Steel Skin, and it should give us 10% back. So for our Ascendancy point, I spec'd out of Conviction of Power to get Sanctuary of Thoughts. It really helped with our defensive power, giving us extra mana as energy shield. That's why we have about 7,000 energy shield there with Relicash. You also want to take the maximum power charge and then Duran Charge as well. And the Sweat of Hope, I got the Corrupted Blood implicit, which is really expensive, but you need it somewhere on your gears. And this Sweat of Hope is really good because it gives you the maximum rage, so plus 10. So you have 40 rage, which is like really good. So we are running a Haste Aura setup with Guardian Blessing. It's pretty standard with the Ray Spectre, but if you don't know, we can pop an extra aura. It's an extra Haste Aura on your Spectre. And you can see it's draining the life and you will die, but it will resummon in 4 seconds because I'm using the Dark Marionette Spectre. So yeah, it's pretty neat. And if you don't know, then now you do. So the rest of the configurations will be in the PoE, and you can see my PoE is definitely not min-max. My precision's level 19 there. My watch design is pretty good though. Yep, so maximum mana as extra maximum energy shield is pretty good. The clarity alone gave me about 1,000 energy shield, so that's really useful. I'm also crit immune with the determinations and corrupted mode on Doryani. And yeah, I think that's pretty much it. So yeah, if you have watched all the way till the end, this is pretty much the end of the video. Thank you so much for watching. And I'll definitely make more PoE 2 contents. I'll take a look at some interesting ascendancies and post the video on my plan if you plan to follow me. There's a lot of things to talk about, and we have about 10 days to prepare, so look forward to that. But anyway, if you liked the video, please give me a like, subscribe, comment below with any questions. Don't forget to join my Discord, and I'll see you in the next video soon.